Hello everyone. In the last section, we have introduced what is computer vision. In this chapter, we will talk about image classification. In this section, we will introduce the image classification problem, which is the task of assigning an input image one label from a fixed set of categories. This is one of the core problems in computer vision that, despite its simplicity, has a large variety of practical applications. Moreover, many other seemingly distinct computer vision tasks, such as object detection, segmentation, can be reduced to image classification. For example, in this image, an image classification model takes a single image and assigns probability to 4 labels: cat, dog, hat, and mug. As shown in the image, to a computer, an image is represented as one large 3-dimensional array of numbers. In this example, the cat image is 248 pixels wide, 400 pixels tall, and has 3 color channels: red, green, and blue. Therefore, the image consists of 248 times 400 times 3 numbers, or a total of 297,600 numbers. Each number is an integer that ranges from 0 to 255. Our task is to turn this 250,000 numbers into a single label, such as cat. Since this task of recognizing a visual concept is relatively trivial for a human to perform, it is worth considering the challenges involved from the perspective of a computer vision algorithm. Challenges in image classification listed below. Viewpoint variation. A single instance of an object can be oriented in many ways with respect to the camera. Scale variation. Visual classes often exhibit variation in their size in the real world, not only in terms of their extent in the image. Deformation. Many objects of interest are not rigid bodies and can be deformed in extreme ways. Occlusion. The objects of interest can be occluded. Sometimes only a small portion of an object could be visible. Illumination conditions. The effects of illumination are drastic on the pixel level. Background clutter. The objects of interest may blend into their environment, making them hard to identify. Intra-class variation. The classes of interest can often be relatively broad, such as chair. There are many different types of these objects, each with their own appearance. A good image classification model must be invariant to the cross product of all these variations, while simultaneously retaining sensitivity to the inter-class variations. Generally speaking, for single-label image classification, it can be divided into 3 categories. Cross-species semantic image classification. The so-called cross-species semantic image classification is to identify different types of objects at the level of different species, such as cat and dog classification. Such image classification, because each category belongs to different species or categories, often has a large interclass variance. CIFAR-10 dataset is a classic example. CIFAR-10 dataset contains 10 categories, namely airplane, automobile, bird, cat, deer, dog, frog, horse, sheep, and truck, among which airplane, automobile, ship, truck are all means of transportation. Bird, cat, deer, dog, frog, horse are all animals, which can be considered as two big categories. The inside of vehicles and animals are completely different species. They are all semantically distinguishable objects. Therefore, the classification task of cipher 10 can be regarded as a cross-species semantic image classification problem. The variance between classes is large, and the variance within classes is small. Subclass Fine-grained image classification. Fine-grained image classification is lower than cross-species image classification. It is often a classification of subcategories in the same category, such as the classification of different birds, the classification of different dogs, and the classification of different car models. We take the fine-grained classification task of different birds for example. The California Institute of Technology Birds Database 2011 is a bird dataset containing 11,788 images in 200 categories. At the same time, each image provides 15 local area locations, one label box, and semantic level segmentation maps. In this dataset, taking woodpecker as an example, it contains a total of 6 categories. We take a picture of each of the 2 categories. As can be seen from the pictures, the texture and shape of the 2 birds are very similar. The color and the texture of the head can only be used to distinguish between them. Therefore, in order to train such a classifier, it must be able to recognize these areas. This is a more difficult problem than image classification of cross-species semantic classification. Instance recognition. If we want to distinguish between different individuals, not just object types or subcategories, it is a recognition problem or instant-level image classification. The most typical task is face recognition. This is the end of this section. Thanks for watching and welcome to the next period.